You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 234. Addressing the fear of success and failure. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Today, we're going to be diving into what I would consider to be a very important topic. It's an important topic to the success of your business, to how you experience being a business owner. And we're going to, dive into what they may say is two sides of the same coin. And that means that you can have fear of failure, which may be a more common conversation, but also fear of success. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you what having fear of success and failure may look and feel like for you in your business. We're going to talk about why we may have fear of success and or failure, and some strategies to overcome those. And before we dive into today's episode, I want to ask you, are you craving community? Are you craving being around like-minded business owners who get you, who understand this journey of entrepreneurship, whom are facing similar challenges and have stood up and raised their hand and said, I want to work through those. I want to move through those challenges to experience greater success in my business, greater joy in my business? Then I invite you to check out my Leverage Lab program. Leverage Lab is my business coaching, training, and accountability program specifically for small business owners. If you want to learn more or join us, you can head on over to amberdelagarza.com/leverage lab. And now let's get to the straight talk. Fear is an idea crippling, experience crushing, success stalling, inhibitor inflicted only by yourself. This is a quote by Stephanie Malish. And I think this really sets the stage for our conversation today. Let's start off by exploring what fear of failure and fear of success is. Fear of failure is when you're afraid of, drumroll, failing. You're afraid of making mistakes or doing something quote unquote wrong. The fear of success involves being afraid of achievement. Yes, being scared of doing well, being successful, doing something big and succeeding. While success is generally viewed as desirable, there are reasons why people may be fearful of doing too well. And we'll dive into that later in today's episode. The conversation around fear of failure is much more common than talking about the fear of success. In fact, I didn't even know that fear of success was a thing until I experienced it myself years into my business. Fear of success and fear of failure can both be conscious and unconsciously known. Self-sabotaging behavior follows because you want to avoid failure and or avoid success. There is no magic pill to fix your fear of success or failure. In my experience, you have to first acknowledge your fear and all the ways it's showing up negatively, impacting you and your business. And then, only then, can you divorce that fear from your action or inaction. Throughout my own journey of personal growth and personal development, I have learned that beliefs create our thoughts create our feelings create action or inaction, and thus create our results. And what we're really going to be focusing on today is what is our belief around what does success mean and what does failure mean to us? And are we willing to shift our beliefs so that we have different thoughts about success and failure? And thus the different feelings which will fuel your action or inaction and thus results. We can't just say, you know what, I'm going to create a new thought today, because our brains are so smart and our brains know that doesn't compute. That's not really what I believe. And so if we can really focus on what is fueling our beliefs, and are we willing to shift and analyze and question those beliefs so that we have different thoughts, feelings, action or inaction, and results, this can really unlock a lot of what you may be experiencing in your business and life. I hope that after today's episode, you will have taken the first step in divorcing fear by identifying if you're consciously or unconsciously operating from a place of fear. Let's first dive into the more commonly talked about fear, and that is the fear of failure. Operating from a place of fear of failure, thoughts may sound or look like, if I fail, it means I'm not enough. I'm not brave enough, smart enough, competitive enough. If I fail, it means I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. If I fail, they're going to lose respect for me. And in your world, who is they? Is it your parents? Is it your significant other? Is it friends? Is it the wild, wild west of social media? If I fail, they'll lose respect for me. If I fail, I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to break relationships with family members or people that I really care about. If I fail, I'm going to be laughed at and humiliated, and people are going to be talking about my failure. And if I fail, it will have been a waste of money, time, and energy. Let's go into a few more. There's no way they would say yes. And who's they? It could be serving a different demographic. It could be serving in a different industry type. Whoever they are to you, where are you saying, they're not going to say yes to me? It's an immediate no. I'd feel like an imposter even trying to do that thing. Whatever that thing is for you, do you have the thought or belief that you would feel like an imposter? How about it's too big of a risk? So you're talking yourself out of it before you ever get started. Because what is the risk? For you, that risk that's too high may be money. For someone else, it might be the risk of damaging a relationship. For another person, it may be the risk of it's going to take too much of my time, resources, time and energy. Fill in the blanks, but you can see here how there's multiple versions of all of these statements that I'm sharing with you. And I just wanted to get your gears turning of what that may feel and look like. Like, what are you thinking? What are you saying to yourself? What are the excuses you're using to not try something? Because your underlying belief around fear is that something really bad is going to happen that you don't want to deal with. And my question to that is that true? Is that belief true? And if you can challenge that belief and find opportunities in which there's positive proof that you are dead wrong, is it true that when you fail, if you fail, that your friends are going to lose respect for you, that your family loses respect for you? Is it true that it will break you if you find out somebody is laughing at you or talking about you behind your back if you went and tried something big? I'm not certain, but I would guess that that's not true. And that is the journey of questioning those beliefs and not just assuming that that knee-jerk belief and thought that we have is true. Because when we don't question those beliefs and those thoughts, it absolutely affects how we're showing up in our actions or inactions and thus our results. I can think of probably 100 stories of where I have had fear of failure in my business over the last decade. And I can probably, if I really tried, to think of a few that I leaned into the fear and just avoided doing the thing because it just seemed so scary. It seemed like something I wasn't willing to navigate through because I let the story and the belief of fear hold on to me. But I also remember many, many stories of where I felt the fear. I had the belief and I chose to show up differently. I chose to not let the fear control how I felt and then thus control the action or inaction I would take. So here's a quick story. And I've shared this a couple times, but I think it's worth saying because this is a hot topic for many of you. And that is around pricing your offerings, your services. Are you worthy, right? And that was one of the examples I gave. Like, do you have the thought that I'm not worthy enough? And that can also come around pricing. And I remember when I first started my business and I went to my first client's house because I was helping them organize their office, like physically organizing their office. And I remember breaking all the rules that I have now. I'm literally showing up to do the work, and we never talked about how much I would charge them. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I know what I should be charging them. Like I've done my research, but I want to throw up right now. I remember sitting outside of my car, like so scared, going through and letting these stories literally compound in my head. What is she going to say? She's going to kick me out of her house. She's going to think the whole time, who am I to charge that? And I just let these stories like mushroom until I took a deep breath and decided. She didn't even ask me how much I was charging. She just knew that I could help her. And if I make this about her and help her and serve her, then I am absolutely worthy of what I'm going to charge. And I literally had to grab a hold of that runaway train of all those thoughts based on the belief that I wasn't worthy of this X price. And it was so powerful for me personally because I remember being physically affected by these thoughts. I remember thinking there's no way I can walk and knock on her door. And I also remember getting out of my car, knocking on the door, and actually making an impact in her life. Because what she was thinking about was not how much I was charging her, but how much I could help her get out of the chaos that she was feeling. The avoidance of walking into her office because it was in such disarray. The fact that she felt so alone and had no idea where to start, that was the true value of being able to help her. And I carry that story for, how I've moved into my business over the last 10 years, but also as an example to myself of moving through fear. I don't believe fear is something you just don't have one day. I truly believe it's acknowledging the fear, seeing how that's going to play out, and choosing something different. We all have fleeting thoughts, but don't let them marinate because your thoughts become your action or inaction that absolutely will sabotage your success. Whenever you're trying something new or you're challenged to do something hard, you might feel scared that you'll fall flat on your face. Or in my situation, I thought she was going to kick me out of her house. In Erin Hansen's poem, she says, "What if I fall? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?" Don't just assume you're going to fall. Consider the alternative that you could fly and what that would mean for your life and your business. And I want you to think back to the story I just shared with you. This was one of my very first clients. And had I leaned into accepting the belief that I wasn't worthy, leaning into the fear and the physical pain I was feeling in my body that day, That could have changed the entire trajectory of me being a business owner. Because then I would have had positive proof that I was not worthy, that I couldn't charge my worth for clients. And we know where that would take us, right? And so we never know when we're at those crossroads. But for me, that was that crossroad. And, this excerpt of the poem of, but what if you fly? And I truly believe that that was an opportunity that I could have fallen on my face and leaned into the fear, or stepped through the fear and flown. All right, so let's switch to the other fear that we're talking about today. And it's a fear of when you're operating from a fear of success. And I shared with you earlier that I wasn't really sure this was a thing. Like, I wasn't aware of it. I don't remember anybody really talking about it until I started continuing to examine my own thoughts and my own beliefs and my own fear, and realizing that I was myself putting a governor, a cap on how I was showing up, how big I was playing, because I had some ingrained beliefs that had not been challenged yet. So I'm going to go over some of the thoughts or things that you're saying to yourself that may indicate that you have a fear of success. If I succeed, I will have less time. If I succeed, I will have less energy. If I succeed or success comes to me, I'm not ready for it. Do you believe you are not ready for success, and therefore, when it's knocking on your door, you push it away? If I succeed, my family and friends are going to think that I think I'm better than them. It will change the dynamics. If I succeed, my family will want to borrow, quote unquote, money, more money, lots of money. They're going to assume I have the money to let them borrow. If I succeed, I won't know what to do with a lot of money. Maybe you don't trust yourself around the idea of having an abundance of money. If I succeed, I'll have a target on my back. We are living in a world of cancel culture, and that's a real fear. It's a real fear that once you become in the spotlight, that people may start targeting you. If I succeed, who am I to do that? Who am I? I didn't go to college. I don't have a business degree. I came from a blue collar family. Like, you fill in the blanks. This can go on and on and on, right? Like, who am I to do that? Powerful thoughts that can either create action or inaction, and thus your results. If I succeed, I don't want to be in the spotlight. So you may have an underlying belief that you don't belong in the spotlight, you don't like the spotlight, you believe that if you succeed, you have to be in the spotlight. If I succeed, it's too much pressure. It's too much responsibility. Life will get too complicated. And if I succeed, I don't want to leave people behind. Now, this is just, again, a small example of some of the thoughts that you may be thinking that may indicate that you have a belief that success is not for you, or success means bad things. When I realized that I had a fear of success, it was around the time that I realized I was onto something. Like, I was onto something in the sense that I was making an impact in my clients' lives. I had business savvy, success, meaning that clients were coming to me. There was growth in my team, and I was seeing the revenue increase, and I was seeing what was possible about how it could change our family. And I say change our family, which means, like, how can I contribute to the income, the joint income the family has? And I remember having to pull back the curtains, like, no, this is all I ever wanted. Like, I totally could see myself being successful. I love business ownership. I love what I do. I love my clients. Like, why am I not in alignment with success? And at the end of the day, what I had figured out was that I had this underlying belief that my success would change the dynamics of my relationship with my husband. And what meant most to me in the entire world was my relationship with my husband. Been together since we were 15. I love him so much. And that I knew that I did not want anything to change what was the best thing in my life. And so I had this feeling of like, can I have two best things in my life? What if I make more money than him? What if my business becomes so successful that it changes the financial dynamics in our household? And so instead of questioning that, I would just sit with it. And unfortunately, it started festering. It started creating some resentment. I started playing a little bit smaller. And all the while, my husband had no idea. Now, mind you, my husband has been my biggest cheerleader, rooting me on, and has never shown a single freaking sign that he would ever be bothered or intimidated with me making more money than him. But my belief, because of the way that I was raised or messaging that I had had early in my life, I believed that that has to be what he would think or what he would believe. So one day I had the courage to actually have a conversation with him and share with him what my fears were. And he really stomped that all out. And we had an honest conversation. And I walked away from that conversation thinking, damn, my head is really creative, because I can tell you there was absolutely no clues, no positive proof. But if you would have asked me, it was the absolute truth that when or if I was bringing in more money than him, that it would change the dynamics. And I left that conversation so confident that I was dead wrong in that belief. And I choose to believe something different. And from that day forward, it literally unlocked so much of my business. So much so that I had actually had the same revenue for 2 years and on pace for the third year in a row when I had this conversation with my husband. And when I had that conversation with him, I've never looked back. I've broken through that revenue time and time again. And it was just so interesting to me that in my head, whatever that number was, that was the number that I thought would tip the scales of what our dynamics were. And I'm talking, this was many, many, many years ago, right? And I still hold on to that story because, man, those beliefs, not that one, but other ones, man, they creep in and they come up. And I'm like, dang, you know what? As much as I believe that to be true, I can look back at times that I equally thought something else was true and I was dead wrong. And so that situation has actually helped me acknowledge other fears and question them quicker and faster and move through them, because I did it once on something that felt truly, really big in my life. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Nelson Mandela. Whew, that really sums up fear of success, right? All right, let's navigate into a few reasons why people have fear of success and failure. And I'm going to say this is just a super small sampling, but I just wanted to bring some voice to these three areas where I find are common in my conversations with my clients. I work with men and women, but a large ratio of my clientele are women. And so I think this one is for you. Backlash avoidance. Researchers call it backlash avoidance when traditional gender roles lead to a fear of success. In many cultures, men applaud their success, while women who achieve the same thing are socially penalized. Women are discouraged from appearing self-promotional or aggressive in favor of modesty and compliance with gender norms. Some women fear success will lead to attacks on their femininity and or being labeled unlikable and underserving. backlash avoidance. Until we actually did the research for today's episode, I didn't know that had a terminology. But it's true. There are a lot of assumptions in the roles in which women should play, and men for that fact, and both are equally unfair. But do you believe that you need to fit into a specific box and that there's something inherently wrong if you choose to live outside of that box, that norm of what is expected from women? That may be a reason why you're fearful of success. Next, imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is actually something that I also was not aware of until I became a business owner. Imposter syndrome. Even people who appear confident can have their doubts. When success comes with increased attention, you may wonder if you could live up to the expectations. What if they don't think you deserve it? What if they think you are a fraud? Fear of success can be fear of being knocked off an imaginary pedestal. Imposter syndrome isn't a psychiatric diagnosis. This phenomenon is experienced equally by men and women and frequently coexists with depression and anxiety. Now, this is just research that we did around imposter syndrome. So I'm going to just speak a little bit to it from my own perspective. Imposter syndrome is essentially that you don't believe that you deserve where you're at, and that somebody's going to find out that you don't have the right credentials or pedigree or experience. Some of this can root from who are you to, right? Fill in the blank from earlier. Imposter syndrome can ebb and flow. You could feel like an imposter in one situation and not in another. And a lot of this comes from unchecked assumptions and letting your imagination go with what you think people actually will care about. And I say that because we think, oh, what if they ask me this and I don't have the answer? And what if they look into this and they decide I am not worthy of speaking on the stage? I'm not worthy of speaking on this topic. I'm not worthy of helping somebody else. I'm not worthy of creating this beautiful design because I don't have the background credentials or pedigree. But at the end of the day, I would say, let your results speak for you. Next, childhood experiences. Our childhood experiences often stick with us for life, though we're not really even aware of it. If as a child you were belittled for success or scolded for not succeeding or ridiculed for showing off and being proud of something, it probably knocked the wind out of your sails. You may have learned to avoid success rather than face it. And you may have learned that if you fail, that is the worst thing that you could ever do. Our childhood experiences and the things that we were told to be absolutely true, if unchecked, can actually show up in every area of our life, our business, our relationships, how we lead, what we view success as. Our childhood experiences, whether we consciously or unconsciously know it, actually formed who we are. I talk a lot about being a mom here on the podcast, and I think of this because I've done my own work of untethering and unprogramming. I don't even know if that's a word. Unprogramming, we'll go with that. Beliefs that I had because of the way I was raised. And when I speak with my son, I'm always wondering, what is the messaging that he's going to get, right? I want to push him to excel in school, but honor that if he fails, it's okay because he tried. I want to tell him to work hard for money, but then also accept when money comes easily to you. I have all of these two-sided beliefs because, having one strong belief and only hearing you have to work hard for money sure as hell shows up in how you will show up in the world as an adult. And while I want him to work hard and know that it takes hard work, I also want him to know that there will be a time that you can let it be easy. So our childhood experiences, in my opinion, and a lot of therapy and work, are not something to be ashamed of, and not something to say it shouldn't have been, or angry with the outcome, but really just acknowledging what are those pieces that shaped you and what serves you and doesn't serve you. And if you're willing to do the work to acknowledge that all of it, whatever beliefs you have, if you find that they are not serving you, you can start questioning them and choose something different. As we close out, I want to share with you some of the ways in which you sabotaging yourself, whether it's fear of success or fear of failure, may show up for you. You may lower your goals. You may set the bar low to keep yourself from being challenged or succeeding or stretching yourself to see what's actually possible. You may find yourself procrastinating, talking yourself out of showing up to do the things that you know that if you did would have a big impact in your business. You may strive for perfection, meaning you're not getting it out in the world. Things are taking so much longer than they need to finish that last 5%, that you believe that if it's not perfect, it's not of value. You may just simply quit. You may decide that this journey of entrepreneurship, or the journey to achieve this goal or this idea or to create what you have in your heart, is just not worth it. And honestly, you may self-destruct. You may find yourself drinking a glass of wine and 2 and 3 each night, or some other substance abuse. You may self-destruct by not prioritizing self-care and getting very little sleep and working yourself to the bones. You may self-destruct by not prioritizing taking care of your body and your mind at the expense of achieving a goal, because the idea of failure is telling you that letting go of all those things that are also important in your life are not as important as the idea of failing. You may have habits and behaviors around overworking, working weekends and nights, and working super hard and all by yourself and not delegating, because you believe that if it's going to be done right, it needs to be done by you. And if it's going to be done, you need to put in the hard work to make it happen. Again, you can see how these are all self-sabotaging behaviors that are led by underlying beliefs that create our thoughts, that create how we feel, that create our action or inaction, and thus our results. I'm going to close out with a quote again from Nelson Mandela. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. I'm going to encourage you today to face fear head on, to unpack the beliefs that are leading to those fears, to question them, to challenge yourself, to choose a different belief to get a different result in your business and life. I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk. And I sure hope you found my conversation today with you around the fear of success and the fear of failure to be incredibly insightful, empowering, and I need to be straight with you. I want it to be action-taking. I really want to encourage you to go down this journey and question your beliefs so that you can ultimately get different results in your business and life. I want you to explore if you have a combination of fear of success and fear of failure, or maybe it's just success, or maybe it's just failure. Whatever that is for you, are you willing to look at it, examine it, question it, and move through it? No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. If you would like support in taking action, diving deeper, exploring those beliefs so that you can choose something different, exploring how they may be showing up in your business and life, I would love to support you through my Leverage Lab program. It's business coaching, training, accountability, and support from a community of other business owners just like you. To learn more and join us, you can head on over to amberdelagarza.com/leverage lab. As we close out, I also want to remind you that if you are not already subscribed to Productivity Straight Talk, please hit subscribe and share this episode with a friend that you think it would be of value to them. Shoot them off a little quick text, say, I'm thinking of you. I think you may love this episode, and I would be so grateful. And I also want to share that I have a special thank you going out to Kara K, who recently said, I appreciate the fabulous tips on being more productive and conscientious with my time. Great show. Thank you, Kara, for leaving a review on iTunes so that I can know that I'm actually making an impact with the episodes I share each week, but most importantly, sharing with others what they can expect if they tune in. So that's my Straight Talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.